When you dare to share, you break the silence. When you dare to share, you speak your truth. When you dare to share, you use the full strength of your voice. When you dare to share, it brings opportunity to own your story. So tell it, be heard, and at the same time, your sharing is someone else's learning, inspiration, motivation, empowerment, and hope. There's always an element to each of our stories that remains a secret. For some, we feel it's a dirty little secret. Dare to share your untold story exposes these secrets in a welcoming and positive way. I encourage each of you out there to dare yourself to share what is yours to tell. When we dare, it is the courage to do something really important. Let this be a vow to each and every single one of us that we take risk, we brave, confront, and face what is, while inspiring and empowering all communities. So let's break that silence and tap into mental beauty. This is Salima Jadabji, your podcast host, a practicing clinical social worker, and your mental wellness connoisseur. Welcome to the Dare to Share Your Untold Story podcast, episode number 48, Fortitude and Beyond, the Courage to Sit with Her Pain. To all my fellow listeners, before we get started, I'm just dropping in a note to give you a heads up that this podcast might be emotionally triggering for you. We do invite guests onto the show who share openly about extremely difficult life moments with exposure and impact of what the struggles have been like. The intensity of each episode could have a variable impact on your emotional and mental well-being based on your own personal story. If at any point the topic becomes uncomfortable or upsetting to you in any way, please do not pressure yourself to listen. Instead, be kind to yourself, do some self-care, and perhaps give another episode a try. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing our courageous and daring guest, Wynnikka Matthews. Wynnikka, also known as Wyn Inspires, is a young Black woman with a physical disability living in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. At the age of just 22, she self-published her memoir called Brighter Days Ahead, where she opens up about her journey living with brachial plexus injury, Erb's palsy. By exploring themes from adapting to everyday living, overcoming many forms of bullying, self-hate, and self-harm, to learning how to love and accept herself, Wynnikka continues to share her story with the goal of inspiring others. Not only is she a speaker and fierce advocate for all things disability and mental health, through her merch and awareness pages, she continues to raise consciousness on these topics. Wynnikka also co-hosts a podcast on love and relationships and is currently a community healer and senior peer mentor with the Community Healing Project in Toronto. With a passion for working with others and raising awareness for mental health, especially within the Black, Indigenous, and person of color community, Wynnikka continues to be inspired by everyone she meets and uses her own voice and journey to meet, uplift, heal, and inspire others. Hey, Wynnikka. Welcome to the Dare to Share Your Untold Story podcast.
Thank you, Salima. It's so nice to be here. I'm grateful and honored to be on your show and to be here to share my story with you.
I'm so pleased to have you on the show today also. And I am thrilled and grateful for your willingness to, just take part and want to tell your story. It feels great to know that we can start drawing from people's strength and that I can draw from your support. And it's important that we take a stance together to help break these barriers of mental stigma.
Of course, I feel like that's so important. Any opportunity that I get to continue to share my story, to help others, it's a part of my healing journey to continue to share my story and to help others by sharing how I get through as well.
Wynnikka, I am really glad that you said that, because one thing I always share with people is that this podcast is about bringing forward untold stories that people go through, whether it's directly about a mental health struggle or something else. But something that we know is that there's an impact to one's own mental health in some way. And that's the part that usually stays silent. And so the other thing that I've learned is that the more we share, the more we're able to tell, the more we're able to open up, the deeper layers come forward. And there's a lot of learning, a lot of rich learning about yourself and about others through telling. And the same goes for the listener. There's so much that they get to hear and learn and relate to, and it inspires them. So I'm really glad that you're able to see it from that way.
Yeah, because I get a lot from it as well. So I love to give, and from that, I also receive. So that's very important to me.
It's amazing. It's really amazing that we're able to start bringing these conversations forward now. Yeah, so the platform that I've put together here, it serves in a way to break barriers of mental stigma that have been conditioned in our society. So, I really am hoping that we can continue to encourage people to share and tell what they typically have reservations for expressing. And so I'm continuing to bring forward this trend, and it's called the mental beauty rethink. So, Win, what are your thoughts? What are those immediate thoughts when you hear that phrase, the mental beauty rethink?
When I hear mental beauty rethink, I think about as we get older, or even when we're younger, there's a lot of things that are embedded in us, the things that we've seen, our environment, our experiences. So when I think of the mental beauty rethink, I think about changing what we've been so used to, and just reshaping our minds and beautifying ourselves and our mental health and healing, and realizing that there is room for growth, there's room for change, and we can control and have control over our minds and our beauty, and how we see the world and how we see ourselves.
Hmm. I love it. It's really refreshing to be able to hear your take on it, and I hear so much energy in your voice when you talk about all of the different components that you feel can be part of it. In terms of the thoughts that come up, just changing what we're so used to thinking and beautifying mental health and being able to take control of things that we can, and reshaping and revamping from what you were saying. I really like that you have this take and that all that messaging comes from when you hear the words, the mental beauty rethink. I think that's so fascinating. So, my goodness, Win, it's time.
Time.
It's time to get started. I'm going to be a question asking geek. Are you okay with that?
I'm perfect with that.
Okay, amazing. All right, Win, give us the newspaper headline of how you would title your untold story. How would it read?
How I would title it is A Young Woman's Story of Perseverance, Resilience, and Fortitude.
Okay, so the title you just said was A Young Woman's Story of Perseverance, Resilience, and Fortitude.
hmm
Okay, I'm intrigued. Can you tell me what that title, or what this headline symbolizes for you?
What this title symbolizes for me is just my journey of pushing through and continuing to go through life no matter what comes my way, because I have gone through a lot. I know that
Mhm.
we're going to save, all the juice for
Mhm.
later, but I have gone through a lot, and some of the things that I've gone through could really break someone down when I've reached like my lowest points in life where I didn't even know
Mhm.
anymore.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
just continuing to push through, remembering my support systems, and even being patient and compassionate with myself, and just pushing through. And, I know that I have a purpose, and I know that I have people who do depend on me, and I depend on myself. So I know that it's very important that I continue to be perseverant and continue to be resilient, and just continue to
Mhm.
go throughout life and just go over the hurdles, and no matter how high or how difficult they may be, it can be done.
It can be done. Amazing. Okay, I love the energy. Yeah, let's unpack that untold story. Are you able to share a little bit about all of the different pieces? I mean, I know you mentioned that, this has been a journey for you of pushing through and going through your life with all the many hurdles. Are you able to share with us what some of those hurdles were for you?
For me, it starts as early as birth and
Mhm.
dealing with obstetrical, which is a fancy word for birth,
Mhm.
obstetrical brachial plexus injury,
Mhm.
where the doctor had seen that I had gotten stuck. Well, my left arm was out, but my right shoulder was stuck behind the pelvic bone, and he panicked and had pulled my head too hard, which had pulled five major nerves from my spinal cord. That was in 1995. I'm 26
Mhm.
years old. there wasn't much
Mhm.
information or supports about or around brachial plexus injuries for the injured or for even the parents and caregivers. So there was a
Mhm.
lot of red tape. There was a lot of things that were unknown. My parents felt on their own with it as
Yeah.
parents, new parents. They have no idea what it is. I was sent home like nothing happened. And then the family doctor discovered that, hey, something is wrong. She's not lifting her right arm by now, and she should be.
Right.
I actually had
Right.
it in both arms, but when it came to surgery at 7 months, they focused only on the right arm. Luckily, my
Mhm.
left arm regenerated its strength by itself and regenerated the nerves. Right arm, even with surgery, nothing happened really. I still have very limited motion with my right arm. It's partially paralyzed. I can't use it. I can't open and close my fingers. I can't raise it above my shoulders. So I cannot use my right arm. And I felt very outcasted. So
Mhm.
there wasn't
Mhm.
other kids who looked like me. There wasn't other kids who had the same injury as me. So when I grew up, there was a lot of bullying that happened. Even parents, were very judgmental. I had teachers who would rather mark me, for example, in physical class and phys ed,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
for my ability rather than my willingness to do the task. For example, shooting a basketball with both hands. Obviously, I can't do
Well,
it, but
right.
if I shot the ball and I got it in, hey, I still did it, right?
You
But,
still did it, right.
but giving me an R, my mom and my dad really fought the system.
And so what does the R mean when you go to R?
It's been so long because they changed it because now they do it by numbers, but I know S is
Mhm.
satisfactory and is needs improvement. R is
Okay.
like really bad. I just knew I cried over R's.
Okay.
You remember I'd have
R's
to
are like the not
the R's are like the terrible, like R is like the bad. That's worse than getting a D. I always wanted to see an A. So when I seen an
okay.
R, I was like, wow,
It's
like they're
bad.
really judging me
Right.
and I have
Right.
a disability. And not only that, like those are adults who I look forward to. I'm with them 6 hours a day, no matter how much positive affirmations and good things my parents instilled in me. I'm still at school for 6 hours a day and not feeling protected. And that's why my parents really fought them and through the system and the different levels, the trustees, the superintendents, because I felt so unsafe at school. I'd make up the most excuses to stay home. Then this is just one thing dealing with my disability.
Mhm.
For example, the bullying and them making fun of me for my arm, I would
Mhm.
turn to eating and then I gained the weight. So now they have something else to make fun of me for.
Right. Right.
So, and then they'll say things like, oh, no one's going to love you because of your arm or because you're fat, or,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
can't play sports because of your arm. So,
Mhm.
whenever things happen later on in life, although I knew that what they said wasn't true, if something
Mhm.
didn't work out, for example, me not being able to play basketball or me not being able to play a certain sport, I did play rugby, but the
Mhm.
first thing that would come into mind is, oh, it's because of my arm, you know?
Mm.
Probably run
Mhm.
faster if it wasn't for my weight. But then I'm also struggling with something called PCOS too, which I didn't know at the time in high school.
Mhm.
So there's just a lot that I thought, like, even in relationships when they didn't work, I'd be like, oh, it's because of my arm. All of that bullying stuff would come back. It took a lot of time for me to rethink. So when I think about your mental beauty rethink,
Mhm.
that's part of it too, is
Right.
not thinking that, yeah, because of what they said when I was younger may have seemed true at the time, but it really is not true, and not allowing it to overcome me when I have certain situations in life and immediately jump to thinking that, oh, it must be because of that.
Mhm.
So that's
Mhm.
that's just one aspect of what I think about when I think about what I've gone through with
Right.
going through elementary and school and dealing with the bullying and having to not think that, oh, I'm not ugly, or oh, my arm, people should be accepting me for who I am. I did not choose this. I did not ask for this to happen to me, nor did my parents. So,
Mhm.
I've gone through pain. Like people didn't see the pain that I was going through behind closed doors, waking up in the middle of the night because my arm is hurting because there's lack of circulation or because I think I'm going to lose my arm because I slept on it all night and I didn't realize because I don't have that much feeling. So there's a lot of things that,
Right.
I go through and then I get sent to school and it's like, okay, you have no idea the struggles that I have to go through. And now you're putting even more on me. So that was a
Right.
lot that I had to deal with.
It must have been a lot of pressure, and in that during
Mhm.
all of that, did you feel like, well, you were being bullied and there was a lot of shame coming externally, like from students and parents of other students and teachers and so many people not knowing how to handle the situation and it being handled poorly. I know that it could feel really shameful. And as you mentioned, you started to eat as a way to cope, and then there were other things that sort of emerged from that. But did you at any point feel or take on like a self-shaming sort of way?
Self-shame,
Yeah.
self-hatred. I
Yeah.
started cutting my arm. I'm so
Mhm.
happy that those scars began to fade and that they're not as visible as they were when I was younger, because I was like 12, 13 at the time, tween years, when
Mhm.
I really started to hate myself, because at that time people are getting into little,
Mhm.
lovey-dovey puppy love relationships, and getting into a lot of things that, just friends groups and feeling isolated on the playground because, oh, if she's on our team, then she's going to make us lose or something like that.
Mm.
She shouldn't be here because her arm is ugly and stuff like that, and just wanting to sit by myself. I would rather do my projects by myself. I don't even want to go up and ask, because if I
Mhm.
go up and ask, I already know what's coming. Oh, I'm already in a group. Nope, I don't want to be in your group. And I didn't know what it was. Like, I thought I
Mhm.
was a pretty cool person,
Mhm.
but then when others don't really see that, or they're constantly on a daily basis making fun of you, you start to internalize a lot of that. At first, I was like, I know I'm cool, and people love me, my family loves me, my real friends love me, but then when most of it is hatred or bullying,
Mhm.
I began to internalize that and think of that of myself.
Mhm. Mhm. So it really did translate it, and it really did become something you internalized.
Yes, so those suicidal thoughts when I was just 12 and 13 years old,
Right.
not wanting to be here, feeling like I'm a burden to the schools. I've gone to
Mhm.
like 8 different elementary schools, because my mom and my dad used to always say, you can't always run from your problems, but if they can
Mhm.
try to protect me by putting me in a different environment.
Mhm.
I've switched a lot of schools.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
my mom would be like, you'll always find, I'll make a random name. You'll always find, no matter what school you go to, there'll always be a Shelley there. There'll
Mhm.
always be another Marcus who's just going
Right.
to remind you of the last Marcus at your last school. So
Right.
you just have to continue to learn how to just be more tough. And she'd be like, it's kind of easier said than done, but you really have to grow some tough skin, because they will really try to break you. So she'd give
Right.
me all these slick things to say back to them, and I'd laugh. I'd be
Mhm.
like, can you just come to school with me and just say it to them for me? Like, I can't
Right.
remember. If I write it down, I'm going to look like a loser. But like,
Mhm.
if you just
Mhm.
come and say it, like, everything would be fine.
Mhm.
So, she would laugh about it, but then it was so bad that actually
Mhm.
I went to a elementary school that finished at grade 6.
Mhm.
And that was the last school before I started switching a lot, because after that it was middle school. And I liked middle school because you kind of got a taste of high school, because we had lockers and everything for 2 years. And when I got there, it was so bad that I went home and I said, Mom, like, no one's bullying me. It seems a little weird. There's like, yeah, one or two people that might bully or bother me, but it's not like the whole class is against me. It's not like everybody on the playground is just like pointing at my arm and just making some slick comments. And my
Mhm.
mom would be like, yeah, because that's not supposed to happen. It's not
Mhm.
supposed
Mhm.
to be that way. That's not how your experience is supposed to be. And then when I got
Mhm.
to high school, it was like even more of a culture shock. That's what she described it to me. She's like, you really are going through a culture shock. You've been so used to being bullied and switched around all this time that when you
Right.
finally are in an environment,
Like a healthy environment, you didn't know what to do with it. It was foreign to you.
it was foreign. I'd come home and be like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Like, they really see me. Like, they really see
Were
me.
you thinking, like, what's wrong with them? How come they're not behaving badly, or why are they not questioning or looking at me funny? Were you ever
Yeah.
having that cross your mind?
Yeah, because I started to be cool with everybody. Like,
You
everyone
got
thought,
accustomed
oh,
to the poor treatment, and you got accustomed to the reactions of people, and you got accustomed to how dismissive people could be.
yeah, exactly. So when it finally was good for me, I was like,
Yeah.
this seems so weird. I came home every day and questioned, like, did I do
Mm.
something? Like, what was that change? What was it?
Mm.
I went to many different elementary schools, but what was it about graduating from K to 6 school and then
Mhm.
going on to middle school and now high school? And I'm a part of all these groups. And I was cool with so many different groups of people. You know how
Mhm.
people have their just
Mhm.
one clique and that's who they stick around with. I had different groups. I was
Mhm.
in different groups. So
Sounds like you found your place.
yeah, no, and then I finally accepted, like, no, this is what's supposed to happen. That's when my confidence grew. That's when my tough skin was
Right.
there. I didn't let anyone talk to me a certain way. I really began to defend myself. I wasn't quiet. And I think a lot of my resiliency, or what kept me sane even before I got into those healthier environments, was the fact that my
Mhm.
parents always had me in external programs, extracurricular activities.
Yes.
I was in Girl Guides, I was in soccer, I was in all these different after school programs, I was in art clubs. They'll just throw me in any and anything. And when I was in those groups, I felt very accepted too.
So when you were in those groups, not part of school, but whether it was the sports or the Girl Guides or the creatives, where you felt more accepted in those
Yeah,
groups?
yeah, and I felt safe.
That you felt safe? Okay.
Yeah, and that the staff were really polite, and they made sure everyone felt safe by ensuring that we all knew that we had to treat each other with respect and not
Mhm.
judgmental. And but then of course, if that's only maybe once a week for an hour or so, depending on how many I'm going to. But then when I'm in school all day, it feels like I'm in school forever. It still was a lot of time for people to get to me.
Mhm.
So it took a lot until I got to, of course, middle school and high school for it to just lower down and feel that this is what I'm supposed to be a part of. And I continued to join clubs. I was in all sorts of clubs in high school too. I was in rugby, I was in dance club, I was in, the Black Youth Association. I was going on trips that were outside of just being in class. Anything that I can just jump into, I did, because it
Right.
made me feel a sense of belonging.
Mm, mhm.
We feel that, people can accept you for who you are, and they don't look at you like you're a burden. They don't look at you like you're a freak, or that you're ugly, or that you don't belong here. It was so weird to me. I had even people coming up and said, "Can I touch your arm? Oh my god, like it's so cute, like a little baby." And I was like, "Oh, like."
People were embracing it in different ways.
Yeah, it was so foreign to me. I was like, they actually want to like touch it and look at my arm. Like,
Right.
I was like, you know what? Like, this is how it's supposed to be for people
Mm,
to accept you. And it's been
right.
a long time, and I know that this is just one aspect, but it's been the biggest for me because it's contributed so much to my self perception and
Right.
my self hate to self love and
Mhm.
be accepting. And then
Mhm.
when dating or relationships, so again, like even when I got into that, I would think, oh my God, it's because my arm, or I'd hide my arm until they see me in person. I would
Right.
never post photos. My mom, she forced me to
Right.
wear sleeveless every time we were going out. She's like,
Wow.
you need to stop hiding yourself. And even in pictures, she would notice that I'd always say, oh, but my left side's my good side. She's like, nice try, turn around. She would be
Okay.
right side.
She wanted you to get comfortably uncomfortable with everything all the time.
Yes, I was so uncomfortable.
Mm.
Like, why are you making me show this? Because I'm gonna post it on Facebook. She passed away in 2014. And she would
Mhm.
always say to me, like, you need to turn around and show your arm.
Mhm.
And it
Mhm.
wasn't until I started writing my book that I
Mhm.
really started posting myself, because it's like, okay, if you're gonna write a book
Mhm.
on you and your disability and you're not even showing yourself, what message are you really trying to portray? Because
Right.
you're trying to show and bring awareness to it, but you're still hiding. But then again, I had to be patient with myself too. It's just like, okay, well, at the same time, I'm still not as comfortable. But I
Right.
knew that there had to become a time where I have to be comfortable enough to share, to show, and to
Mhm.
accept, and to show others that I'm okay with being different and I'm not the only one out here like that.
Right.
And although we're not that small, but we're just not as known, I guess, those with brachial plexus injuries. But it's
Yeah.
becoming more. It feels like now.
I think there's more information about it out there now, but certainly didn't have a lot back then. Do you have like a group of people that you connect with who've had a similar birth experience?
Yeah, I do. And I always thank the internet. If it wasn't for social media, I don't know where I would be mentally. And
Mhm.
I don't know where I would be placed really in the world of people with brachial plexus injuries to this day.
Mhm.
I'm really not sure, because it was Facebook. I just decided and got up one day and was like, I'm just gonna search for brachial plexus injury. I'm just
Mhm.
gonna search. And a bunch of pages popped up, and I was like, oh my God, there's one
Mhm.
point something K people following this page. There's
Mhm.
another 3 point something K following this page. And I joined them all.
Oh, wow.
They would have prompts like, oh, welcome this person. But what I liked is you had to do a little survey before being let in, and
Okay.
talk about, like, are you injured? Are you a parent? Are you a
Mhm.
supporter? why would you like to join this page? And I
Yeah.
talked about, like, I really don't know anybody. And I felt like, this is crazy. I can't believe this many people. And that's just following this one page.
Hmm.
There are many pages and there's many people out there who don't even know, like me, that this exists. So
Right.
when I joined, and they would say, "Oh, welcome, so and so, share your story. Are you a TBPI, which is traumatic BPI, traumatic brachial plexus injury, which just means that it happened after birth from a sports injury or a car accident or
Right.
something else, or OBPI, which is obstetrical from birth." So I explained that I'm OPPI. I was happy to finally come across a group, and
Hmm.
there's people of all sorts of ages.
So you felt like there was more relatability. You could talk about things and you didn't have to explain it. They already knew a lot of different things, and you could actually talk about what was bothering you or a question you had or support someone else. Or did it feel comfortable enough to do that?
Yeah, it did, because
Hmm.
when I was in the group, for people to just know, or just have similar experiences finally. And I was 19 or 20 at the time.
Hmm.
And I went my entire life with it. And it wasn't until 19, 20, 21 years old
Right.
that I finally felt a sense of belonging. And this was through social media.
Hmm.
And I came across people who lived in Toronto, who are from Canada, who are from all over. The ones
Right.
who are from Toronto, I linked up with them. I met them in person and sat for like a coffee, and we talked about our stories too. I had two of them come and speak at my book launch too, who are
Amazing.
from Toronto. Yeah. So rather than feeling like the outcast in the world, I felt like, not necessarily that the whole world is now revolving around BPI. It just feels like it's been so normalized for
You
me.
were able to take some space, though. It sounds like when, like you could take some space and feel like you could have space in the world.
Yeah. And take up space. That's what it felt like finally.
Yeah, I get to take up space, and it's good and fine to do that. A few minutes ago, you shared something, and I know it got a little glossed over. I'm hoping that you don't mind going back there. You mentioned that your mom suddenly passed away in 2014. And I know that before you shared that, you were talking about how she was such a big pillar of strength for you, the way you described her support. It seemed like that she helped give you that foundation. I'm curious about what it was like to lose your mom, and how did that affect you in terms of just not having her as a support anymore? Did you feel different? Tell me if you're comfortable to share.
So my mom's death was very sudden. It was not prepared for. I didn't even know. Sometimes I asked myself what I had rather known in advance, but then I
Mhm.
still feel like I wouldn't be able to handle it either way.
Mhm.
So the way it happened was fast, and it kind of forced me into accepting it, because there's no change anyways. It's not going to change.
Mhm.
I was 18 at the time, and it was 2014, and I had just finished my first year of college, and I had one more year left. And my brother was 16, my sister was 10, so they're very young.
Mhm.
And our dad was there, of course, too. And then she had passed suddenly, and it was hard on all of them. And I felt like she had said something like a month before to my dad, and it like set him off. She always said these little, if I were to die tomorrow, remember this. If I were to die tomorrow, remember this. And because I was always like labeled as the mother hen,
Mhm.
she would always say, if I were to die tomorrow, Nika, which is my nickname, would make sure that everyone is okay and that everyone has their head on straight. So when she had passed, I felt like immediately I had to kind of jump into that. Oh my gosh, like my family is not okay. I have to
Mhm.
help out. I have to this. I have to support dad. He's our last parent left. He's going through a lot. He has a lot to do. And because I was the oldest, I felt like I had to help a lot. I did it anyways, but now it's like, oh, now it's showtime. I kind of asked for this role growing up. I always wanted to be the mother hen, clearly,
Mhm.
overprotecting my siblings, and now I literally have to do that. I have to be put into that role. So losing her and having such a big influence on me, and just always being there to support mentally, and always doing my hair, because I only had one hand to deal with anyway. So she always did
Right.
my hair with female things, helped me with like my bra and stuff like that. So my sister was just 10, so I had to try to teach her how to do the things mom used to help me do.
Right. What was that like for you? Did you have to find new supports, or how did you find a way to navigate that?
It was pretty difficult. And my hair was a big thing for me.
Mhm.
So when she had passed, all I wanted to ever do was put my hair up in a ponytail. And me having
Mhm.
afro hair, it's so hard. It doesn't just, I watched all the videos, but it doesn't allow me to like hold my hair and twist it up. I can do it when I have braids, but I couldn't do it with my own natural hair. And plus, it
Mhm.
was permed at the time. So I just cut it completely all off. And I just said, this is my point of liberation, I guess. And I have to begin healing. It was a lot because she was the powerhouse. You know, everyone came
Mhm.
to mom for everything. So we all had to just kind of learn how to depend on each other as a unit. You know, having such a big loss, like the heart of the system is gone.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, everything trails back to the heart, and the heart of the system is gone. You kind of have to build from scratch, is what it felt like, and it was a lot on me too. Just trying to be very responsible and just, I guess I kind of overdid it too, even overprotecting my brother, my sister, even
Mhm.
more, like hounding them. You know, my dad, I know he's like so grown and everything. Like, that's my dad. He knows what's going on. He knows what to do. It's just fear of loss again. I feel like I didn't realize that until I got much older.
Well, yeah, you probably were trying your best to protect everybody because you didn't want any other changes.
Yeah. And then even when my brother would lash out, like, oh, you know, I'm over 18 now and you keep mothering and babying me. And I'm just like, I don't think you understand. Like, you know, I can't take anything else. So I just kind of, it became overbearing. And I realized that now. I'm like, okay. Even my godmother made a joke to me 2, 3 years ago about my little sister because she just turned 18. And she said,
Mhm.
you need to cut the umbilical cord off of her. And I laughed. And I'm just like, oh, is it that bad that everybody on the outside is seeing? Like,
Well, when you're getting those kinds of messages, I guess
yeah, right?
it's kind of like a light bulb moment, right?
Yeah. And I didn't
Mhm.
realize. And I was just like, oh.
Mhm.
Now I see, like, you know, because of my own fears, I'm not allowing them to just
Mhm.
make their own mistakes or do what
Mhm.
they're doing
Mhm.
and just
Right.
grow and just do what I did
Yeah.
because I was 18 and they were so young at the time. They're losing their mom at such a young age. And our dad was so strong for us too, but I could just see it. And that's what I was scared of. I'm like, we don't need
Mhm.
you that stressed out now and have to worry about your health. So I jumped up to everything
Mhm.
and I realized how much that affected me. I suppressed a lot. I didn't express a lot at all
Mhm. Mhm.
because I just felt like I just had to be the strong one. You know, when they're crying, I wasn't, but when doors were closed, I was crying.
You hide your feelings in private. You felt the need to stay strong otherwise.
Yeah, because if they, I don't want them to see me too, and then okay, who's going to be the strong one for everybody? Everyone is breaking down right now. Okay, it's me. I opted into be that person just automatically. I don't know if that's just a part of my personality, just being able to just be strong through those situations.
But I think it goes back to being able to take space for yourself too, right? And I think you talked about how that's been a theme for you even in an earlier part of your life as a result of the disability too, right?
Yeah.
Accommodating yourself for others.
Yeah.
But then when you started to realize you could have space and you could take space and having space was okay, I'm curious if maybe you might be finding over the years that there might be other themes, other things in your life where taking space is a bit of a challenge for you
Yeah.
and being able to have your feelings and reach out for support that requires the mindset of willingness to take space or acceptance of it's okay for me to take space here. And so it might have been ingrained in you for a deeper level that maybe you were not really aware of.
I really wasn't. And I could tell you, I didn't realize that until just 2 years ago.
Right.
I'm 26 now, and I've gone through it a lot for the last couple of years. Well, and another aspect is work. I was working
Mm,
with kids, and that really got to me. The pandemic allowed me to walk away from that because they dismissed us. So I was like, okay, well, I just lost my job, but I just joined a program. And that
right.
program, and I'm still a part of, is the Community Healing Project. And
Hmm.
what that project does is to help bring awareness to gang violence and mental health within at risk communities amongst the youth. And
Hmm.
the program trains youth to become healers within their community, to do workshops on
Hmm.
different mental health topics, and
Mhm.
share their own experiences and stories to relate
Mhm.
with other youth. Because even growing up in my area, no one talked about mental health. In our culture and other cultures too, mental health isn't as important.
Well, yes. I mean, if you think about it, right? Like that's one thing that we know across cultures, right? We haven't really given space for mental wellness the way we're kind of getting started and doing that now in society. So there's still a lot to tease out. So what you experienced as you grew up, the supports would have been limited, or even if supports were around, you wouldn't know how to navigate the system or how to access those supports. And people to this day and age still have trouble accessing supports. It's not a perfect system by far. So,
Mhm.
definitely the work that you're doing right now is going to definitely continue to evolve and grow and continue to better for these young individuals.
Yeah, and for
Hmm.
me, like, yes, I joined the program to help others, but that program literally saved my life. I'm wearing the shirt right now. I kid you not, and I don't just say the sweater is my favorite sweater for no reason.
Hmm.
There's not only is it very comfy, but I really live by that because they really did save my life. Because as a healer, it was the first time that I was at a program or a job where they looked at me and said, "Your mental health matters." That was another culture shock for me because I was so used to just you go to work, you're here for us, you do what we say, and you
Right.
when your shift's done, that's it. But
Hmm.
I go home, I should probably be getting paid for all the hours I was up and couldn't sleep because of
Yeah.
work. I felt like I was still working, like even in my sleep and being woken up.
Hmm.
But when I finally joined the project and I had access to different resources and counseling, and I was able to heal, though it's called a community healing project and it's for others, I healed. I grew a lot. I
Hmm.
created
Hmm.
boundaries now. Like I
Right.
wasn't taking on, friends' issues if I wasn't okay so much.
Right.
I realized that, hey, like, am I even putting too much on my friends? Did I ask them if they have the capacity and space to be hearing my stuff?
Hmm.
A lot of times we just call and they answer and just go into this ranting mode and we don't even ask them if they're good and if they're okay. So I
Hmm.
started to become more mindful of that and even my own health and what I can take on and saying no and taking space for myself because I felt like I was emptying myself and not pouring back into myself a lot.
So it sounds like your journey has taken you through a course of a lot of hurdles, a lot of different parts of discomfort, a lot of uncomfortable moments, and a lot of learning. And so I'm curious when people come to see me in the therapy space, people typically tend to be in one of three places. Some people are getting started. They need to start the process somewhere and they don't actually quite know where to begin and they need some help, or some people are in the middle, they're right in the thick of things. And some people are looking back. Some people are looking back to look at sort of getting closure, or they're looking back to take away the lessons and learning so that they can move forward in the next chapter of their life. So, where on the journey would you say that you are? Would you say that you are getting started? Are you somewhere in the middle? Or are you looking back?
I think I'm still in the middle for
Mm-hmm.
sure. I feel like I've come a long way though,
Mm-hmm.
very long way. And I realized that I've come a long way when I started that shift and that change 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's always going to be something that comes up that
Mm-hmm.
might either trigger me or alter my mental health state. But I feel like I have better knowledge and better skill, and I've grown a lot to be able to handle certain situations differently. But I feel like I have more self awareness now where I'm able to accept, even if I'm not handling situations in the correct way, I can also be
Mm-hmm.
like, no, self, you are not handling this correctly. And you know what's right and you know how to deal with these situations. So the awareness, at least, is there for sure.
Right. Oh, and that helps, and that continues to build over time too, right?
Yeah. And that's why I feel like I'm still kind of in the middle, but I'm
Mhm.
also, you said looking back, I also look back for sure at how far I've come, what I've gone through, and how it's affected me. But still being in the middle, like I look back, I'm
Right.
like, okay, well, that's how I used to act. I've always seen these memes. People say, my old self is fighting my new self kind of thing.
Right.
I'm in that kind of teetering stage.
Yeah. It's like you're in the middle with an end in sight, right? You're moving along, but you know you're still a ways away, but you've come a long way.
Yeah. And like
Yeah.
when those situations happen and I'm teetering, I'm like, okay, I could react like this, but I've grown so much that I know I have the tools, I have the growth, I can act like this. And we'll
Right.
come to a point where I'll feel so whole that I can actually operate in the way that
Hmm.
I actually know is best for me and it's
Right.
healthy. And it's not only healthy for myself, but the people I have around me, my environment, and how I
Mhm.
interact with people.
Amazing. That's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. So still in
Hmm.
that stage, and
And that's okay. It's okay to be right where you are. You just are where you are because that's where you need to be, you know?
I love that. Yes.
Hmm. So I know we've talked about a lot of different aspects, and we've even talked about, how your mental health was affected. And, you've shared a little bit about the suicidal thoughts you were having and just how unhappy you were. And another thing that you mentioned is that you tended to suppress a lot. What was it like to suppress so much? I'm curious about what the internal struggle was. So if there was all this stuff that you were packing in, how did that come up? Did it manifest physically in any way or kind of emerge with other emotions? Did you have other like competing intense thoughts? What was it like?
So for me, when I suppressed a lot of my feelings, I felt and it's very like I don't know cliche to say, but literally a boiling pot. It just felt like
Mm,
everything was just rumbling and being held in the inside. No one's really seeing it unless you have a
mhm,
clear cover pot. You really don't know until you start to hear. I don't know. When it happens, it's almost like I didn't recognize myself because I've held so much that even in arguments, I would blow up or things would happen to me or people would do things to me and constantly I wouldn't speak up about what was bothering me. I'll just
mhm,
hold it in and bubble over and bubble over. And
mhm,
they're not seeing it until I just blow up. Oh, well, why didn't you say that from before? I had a problem with confrontation because I just love to keep the peace. I don't know if that's a Libra thing, but I just didn't want to disturb the peace. So if that means compromising and sacrificing my own needs and my own emotional needs just to keep the peace, then that's what I had done. But that's something that I've learned not to do because it was a lot on me. And you asked if it manifested physically. I did not sleep. I
mhm,
My sleep was so disturbed. It's
mhm.
gotten a little bit better, but I still feel like I have disturbed sleep sometimes. My
Right.
stress levels were so high. I was having what is it, palpitations? I think it's,
Heart palpitations, yeah. When you have the rapid heartbeat and it feels like it's pumping, pumping.
yeah. And it
Mhm,
feels weird, and then I was like, oh my God, am I like moments away from a heart attack? So I'd go to the hospital.
mhm,
The ECG on me and they're like, oh, you're fine. Like, nothing's wrong. Are you stressed? Of course I am. Well, it's probably just anxiety. I'm like, no, but you don't understand. I felt something wrong with my heart. They're like, yeah, you feel a lot of things when you're
mhm,
anxious and stressed out. I'm like, but you don't understand. Like, on my chest, like it hurt. It felt like I was having a heart attack. And they're like, yeah, that's a symptom.
mhm,
At that time, I just felt like, oh, well, I have no choice. Like, this is what I was given. Like, I have no choice but to go through all of this. Like, I didn't ask for this, but I have to be the one to do this. I'm supposed to live this way.
mm. So you had that narrative for a while. I'm supposed to live this way.
Yeah, like life just handed me this. I didn't ask for this, so maybe I'm
Mhm,
supposed to be like this. Like it's stressful, but no one else is being given this task. No one else is being given this job, so I just have to do it. But it wasn't healthy for me. It
mhm,
manifested in like just physical pain and
mhm,
not wanting to do anything and feeling so unmotivated on the inside, but still pushing myself to still do it, and
mhm,
then feeling drained after
mm,
not sleeping. I wish sometimes it's really bad to say, but I'm a stress eater. When I was going through those times, I wish that I was a stress non-eater because at
right.
least I would be losing weight. That's what I used to think. And it's such a bad way to think.
Yeah, but when you're overwhelmed and stressed like that, we tend to have those thoughts that are not healthy, right? And they don't serve us well.
Yeah.
And coping with food, it's one thing to enjoy food and enjoy it pleasurably and mindfully and fully and joyfully. But when you're using it as a coping mechanism, whether it's to avoid it or to have a lot of it and consume it, neither one is happening for the right reasons, right? So there's pros and cons to that coping strategy, whether you're having it or not.
And I realized that that's something that happened from childhood. Because when I was younger,
Mm-hmm.
how I dealt with the bullying was stress eating. And
Mm-hmm.
when I got older, when I got through a lot of stuff and no one was looking, stress eating.
Mm-hmm.
And it was frustrating because then I'd see the weight gain.
Right.
And I was just like, okay, this is just ridiculous. But then
Mm-hmm.
also struggling mentally and physically and emotionally with PCOS too. So it's like, it was like a double edged sword with
Yeah.
everything. Even when I started eating healthy, I got training
Sure.
and everything. If somebody was doing what I was doing for a whole year, they should have lost at least 50 to 100 pounds. And I only lost 10. And that's
Right.
because I have issues that the doctors didn't even look into, feeling belittled, feeling not heard.
So, Win, what is your key message to the listeners of our show?
So my key messages,
Mm-hmm.
if I could say
Yeah.
messages,
Yeah. Messages. Let's do that.
is self-compassion and love. Because I know, for example, my weight loss journey. If I don't love myself now, how when I reach a certain weight am I gonna love myself then? So learning to love yourself through the journey and through the struggle and finding peace with what you're going through is very important, and having self-compassion and not beating yourself up on your bad days. You might have a goal to be like, okay, I'm going to journal, or I'm going to eat this way, or seek help. And then that one day you screw up and
Mm-hmm.
you feel like, okay, I screwed up today. I'm going to screw up tomorrow. There's no point anymore in continuing. No, there is a point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow is
Mm-hmm.
another day. It's a fresh start for you to do it again. Or the next meal is another chance to do it better. Or,
Mm-hmm.
the next hour, or, the next time you have downtime is another chance for you to do better. So
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't end at your screw up, because you have another chance to do better, and giving yourself time to heal, because time does tell and time does heal. Nothing is going to happen today or tomorrow or next week. Giving yourself and allowing yourself that time to be at peace with yourself and to
Mm-hmm.
be at peace with your experiences in your past, and to
Mm-hmm.
go through your journey, and giving yourself that time to be you is very important.
Right.
Also, people's perception of you is not the real you. You know you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, then self awareness, working on your self awareness is very, very important, because if you don't know yourself, you'll allow your environment and you'll allow other people to determine who you are. You're leaving that open space, a sacred open space, like you're opening yourself up to be defined by your environment and by other people. So to know yourself and have self awareness so that you don't allow people's perception to really define who you are, or your experiences to define who you are, is important.
Right.
That would also lead me into saying, also not judging a book by its cover too,
Right.
because you don't want to be that person either who judges somebody and having a perception of somebody, and you don't know what they're going through, or what their journey was, or what they're doing currently on their journey right now, what they're struggling,
Mm-hmm.
how far they've come. The little milestones that you might think are little but are big to them.
Right.
Being the person who doesn't judge and allowing people to be unapologetically themselves.
Such great messages. Amazing. All right. So I'm curious about what is your game changer inspiration that's close to you that reflects your untold story? So, what was game changing for you during your pivot? Would it have been some sort of a quote or mantra or book or an event or a person or something? What would that have been for you?
Learning how to say no. I think that was the biggest thing for me.
Learning to say no.
Yeah. Learning how to say no is something that stood out to me,
So, when was the first time you actually said no?
I think 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Around that same time, that's when I really started to wake up and be like, you know
Mm,
what? No. I would always say yes before checking in with myself, or checking my schedule, or seeing if I
right.
even have the mental capacity to do so. So
Mm-hmm.
before I jump and say yes, I would be like,
Mm,
let me get back to you. I'm gonna give me some time, and I'll get back to you by the end of today. Like give me until tomorrow. I'll let you know.
right.
Or if I already know for real, like because I'm just hanging around, like I don't really have much to do. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
mentally okay. I'll say yes. But if I'm unsure, like like I'll say hold on, or I'll say no first,
Mm-hmm.
and be like, you know what? Yeah, now I can do it. So it's two
Right.
years ago when I started to learn and
Mm,
take control, and actually go to counseling and learn
yeah.
how important it is to
Right.
say no. Even today, sometimes that guilt of saying no
Mhm.
and just feeling so heavy and afterwards. But it's better than feeling overwhelmed and like I literally can't do it, but
Right.
still literally killing myself to do it.
Got it. That's amazing. So who do you want to give a shout out to? Is there a cause or an organization that has been really impactful to you on your journey that you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I'd love, love, love to give a shout out to the Community Healing Project. Super dope program, super amazing, just life changing for me. I joined it so that I can help others in the community and other youth like myself. But in turn, it has changed me and helped me so much.
Mm-hmm.
We get trained to help others, but this program has helped me. And I moved on from being a healer who was being supported by a peer
Mm-hmm.
mentor to a peer mentor who's supporting the healers who are supporting the youth to becoming the senior peer mentor now, who's
Amazing.
supporting the other peer mentors who are supporting the healers who are supporting the other youth in the community.
Yeah, so let's do that shout out to the Community Healing Project. It sounds like it's been so inspiring and so helpful and healing and wonderful. It can only continue to expand its breadth of healing to other people, right? So that's wonderful.
Yeah, and every year it's becoming bigger and bigger. Just the impact that it has. I feel like a lot more people should know about it, and it is becoming more and more, known about just by the amount of applications every cohort, which is twice a year, that we begin to get. So, big shout out. Changes are happening, and it's amazing.
Yes, really great changes. Well, the good thing is that I know after people listening to your episode, this podcast, it's quite possible that people are going to want to reach out to you. So I know that we've got your handles and all of your links. So we're going to add all of that to the show notes page so that you will be findable to all of the listeners of the show. And Wynnikka, guess what?
What?
You've just dared yourself to share. Congratulations.
Yay! Thank you, Salima.
Hopefully this was a good experience. Oh my goodness. No, you were so, so welcome.
Thank
Hopefully it was a good experience for
you. It
you.
was. Thank you so much.
Oh my goodness. And Wynnikka, I just want to take like a hot second to acknowledge how beautiful it was to hear such delicate parts of your story. I guess you are truly living up to that name, Win Inspires. And your journey, while there was so many hurdles and struggles along the way, it is truly filled with wisdom and insight and perspective. And I feel inspired and I'm really appreciative for being able to guide your story today. So thank you so much for the deep conversation and for all the daring and all your sharing.
Thank you so much, Salima. It was a pleasure.
Amazing. So once again, Win, thank you for being part of Dare to Share Your Untold Story and helping to be a voice in breaking down the barriers of mental stigma. To all of our listeners, if you like what you've been hearing on this podcast and you want to be part of breaking down barriers of mental stigma, I invite you to go wherever you are listening to the episode and hit subscribe. Leave us a comment or a review of the episode and maybe how you relate to it. To learn more about what we offer, visit www.daretoheal.co. And if you are feeling ready and brave to share, please submit your story by visiting www.daretoshare.co. Thanks for joining in.